So when I was bitten by the iron bug at 14 years old, early on, like even at that age, I was like, man, how sweet would it be to have your own gym, right? And so that just continued as life went and as I continued to get older. And I never really dropped that. Always the idea, oh, it'd be cool to have a gym. But then it kept getting a little bit more specific, a little bit more clear, a little bit more of what I would want that to look like. And so what I did, I started buying equipment. I think the first pieces of equipment I bought was like a couple like random kettlebells, a utility incline bench, and like something else, like maybe like a preacher curl machine. And I get a storage unit. I put it in the storage unit. It's nighttime. I loaded it in. It's probably like 10:30 at night, and I'm looking at it as I'm about to close the door. And my truck is parked behind me, and the lights on my truck are shining on these random pieces that I just bought, and I'm staring at them. And as I'm closing the door, out loud, I literally say, "What the am I doing?" My name is Lucas Krubeck. I live here in Cody, Wyoming. I am 35 years old. I am married, have 2 children. I am the owner of the Barbell Club, a 6,000 square foot strength training facility here in Cody, Wyoming, that has been operational now for a little over 3 years. I am a licensed physical therapy practitioner. I'm a musician. I am a competitive bodybuilder and powerlifter. Shoe collector. I'm a shoe collector. I'm a dog owner. I'm passionate about life. And interested in sharing that passion with people and getting people into the gym, into strength training, and ultimately becoming who they want to be. No specific reason for that. I get asked often if I prefer one over the other, Lucas or Luke. Doesn't really matter to me. I think Luke, became a nickname growing up, family, close friends, and then I think just by default, I found myself introducing myself as Luke, and apparently to the point where some people don't even know my full name is Lucas. I had a client the other day, I was training him and somebody called me by Lucas, and he goes, and I was like, yes, that's my name, bro. So yeah, either one, it doesn't matter to me. As they say, call me anything you want, just not late for dinner. So, gosh, at 14, I'll have to think about that. 14, I bet I was probably still sub 200. I think I wrestled 205 as a sophomore or junior. But I put on a pretty good amount of muscle after I started training. So my guess is I was probably 170, 180 when I first started. Height, I'm 6 foot now, so just gonna throw out a guess, and I was probably 5'10", 5'11". My wife was my sandwich artist at Subway. The summer after I graduated high school, so I lived in Utah during the year and spent my summers here with my father. So I was back and forth. My parents divorced when I was really young. Graduated high school, came back here for the summer like I usually did, and had been back only for a few days, and my mom was still in town. When I graduated high school, I moved back here, and they moved out to Virginia. So it was all in this transition, and she happened to be in town, and I was running some errands with her. And she said, "Where do you want to eat lunch?" And I was like, "I don't know. We're going to be out that way. Let's just eat at Subway at Walmart." Little did I know that quick little decision would lead me to meeting my eventual life partner, soulmate, best friend, mother of my children. I was just, it's ironic you're asking me this because just last night we were laying in bed and I made the statement to my wife. I said, I love our children so much. Like, it's such an odd thing. You know, you're a dad, like they're yours, and it's like they've always been yours, and it's like, it's so crazy, it's wild. And I was just thinking about how weird and strange this life is. That my decision to go eat at Subway led me to last night laying in bed, talking to this beautiful woman about this life that we've built and we've created, and these children. It's just wild. So anyways, we chose to eat in Subway. We go in, and my sandwich artist I found to be quite attractive. So I go through, and I didn't order just one sandwich, I got two because it gave me more time to stare at her. And so I'm eating lunch, and she made some awkward, I better go check on the drinks out there. So we both had some piqued interest. We eat lunch, we leave, and I'd been back here for about a week, and my mom asked me as we continue to run some errands, she's like, well, have you met or seen any cute girls since you've been back? And I was like, yeah, the one that just made my sandwich. And I was driving, and I said, and in fact, and then I turned the car around, pulled back up to the front of Walmart, got out, put the hazards on, hopped out, walked back in there to get her number. And I go back in there, and there's like a line of like 15 people. And I was like, I'll go back later. So later in the day, I was heading out past the Walmart again to go check my schedule at work at the steakhouse I was waiting tables at, just to see what my schedule was. And I was like, I'm gonna swing in there and see if she's still there. So I swung in there, no one was in line, no one was out front, so I got out there and rang the bell, and some other lady comes out, and I said, hey, there was a young lady, brunette, that was working here early, and I was just wondering if she's still here. And she goes, Abby? And I was like, I have no idea what her name is. So she's like, I'll be right back. So she goes in the back, and my wife, she like peeks her head around the corner to like see who is asking, and sees it's me, and she comes out, and I think my line was, I hope you don't think I'm a creep, but I was wondering if you'd like to go out sometime. So she said yes. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a freaking cell phone until I was like 21. I was like all through high school, I was like using the landline at the front of the high school if I needed a ride or get a hold of someone, right? So I didn't have a cell phone, so I give her the landline to my dad's house, right? Super cool. And anyways, I get in touch with her, and we plan a date, and the rest is history, as they say. We just celebrated 10 years of marriage, and we've been together for 17. So I made the poor girl wait 7 years before I married her.
Congratulations.
But, thanks, man. I think the initial idea or obsession with gaining muscle starts for most young men at an early age, right? Playing through G.I. Joes and admiring the bodies on the action figures or anything like that. So it was probably a little bit from that, but honestly, at 14, it was a requirement to play football. So that was kind of my first real experience in a weight room. Was a little bit in 8th grade, but freshman year of football. Again, it being a requirement, and man, I fell in love with it quick. I got bit by that iron bug hard. It was shortly after that initial introduction to the weight room that a family friend had found out that I had started lifting and started training, and they gave my mother these 2 big banker boxes of old Muscle and Fitness magazines. And I was flipping through those, and that was like kind of one of my first real glimpses into like the bodybuilding world. And I was like, that is what I want to look like. That's it. And I don't know, I just fell in love with it really quick, and it just continued for me. I didn't realize it at the time, but it also ended up being a very good release for me for some things that I had to deal with in my day-to-day life around that time as well. So it was therapeutic for me, for sure, and continues to be. So when I was bitten by the iron bug at 14 years old, early on, like even at that age, I was like, man, how sweet would it be to have your own gym? right? And so that just continued as life went and as I continued to get older. And I never really dropped that. Always the idea, oh, it'd be cool to have a gym. But then it kept getting a little bit more specific, a little bit more clear, a little bit more of what I would want that to look like. And then decided to start moving towards it. There was a gym here in town that I tried to purchase 3 times. And it didn't work out for a few different reasons. I think the first time it was like a difference in what they wanted for it versus what I was willing or able to pay. And then the last 2 times, it was just sold to somebody else. So in that process, which was a bit frustrating, felt like I was hitting some roadblocks, and I decided, I'm not just going to sit around and wait. I'm going to have a gym someday, so I'm going to start buying equipment. And so that's what I did. I started buying equipment. I think the first pieces of equipment I bought was like a couple like random kettlebells, a utility incline bench, and like something else, like maybe like a preacher curl machine. And I get a storage unit. I put it in the storage unit. It's nighttime. I loaded it in. It's probably like 10:30 at night, and I'm looking at it as I'm about to close the door. And my truck is parked behind me, and the lights on my truck are shining on these random pieces that I just bought, and I'm staring at them. And as I'm closing the door, out loud, I literally say, "What the fuck am I doing?" And I close the door because it was so far from a gym. It was so far from what I was going to need. I didn't know. There was just so many unknowns, right? But little by little, I just kept buying equipment as it would come up on the used market as I would find it. And obviously, I had a running list in my mind of equipment that I needed. That were like needs. I also had a list of wants. But again, at this point, I didn't know how big it was going to be. I didn't know any of that. And so all that continued to grow and develop as time went. When we finally got 2 gigantic storage units full of equipment, I was like, okay, it's time. We need to start looking for a space. At that point, my vision was a bit more clear. And to the second part of your question of how did we name it, that was actually pretty tough. And I went back and forth on a handful of names. I think, let's see if I can remember some of them. The one name, there was a gym that was in Casper, Wyoming, that I used to train at when I would go visit a friend there. And it's not in operation anymore. And so since it was no longer in existence, the name could have been up for grabs. And so I had considered stealing the name and repurposing it. And the name of the gym was the Flex Complex, which I thought was pretty rad, right? So I had considered that. My grandfather, Grandpa Chub Krubeck, he had a nickname for everybody, and my nickname was Punky. And so I considered Punky's Pro Gym, with kind of a personal flair, but I was like, that might be a little too personal, little too personal branding to, for resale purposes or things like that down the line. And then the Barbell Club, I don't exactly remember where I got it, but I think it was kind of originated from the fact that I'm super passionate about the barbell movements, the barbell compound movements, and I always have been, and a believer in those and what they can do to facilitate your fitness goals. And so I just kind of kept going back to that because it was very utilitarian. It felt clean. There was no question about what the gym was. And for me, I knew that I wanted to draw to a well-rounded group. I knew that I was going to draw people like me that were super passionate about it and, the meatheads. But I also wanted to draw, people of everyday life that are passionate about strength training. I want to get people that are passionate about strength training and want to use that as one of the number one tools to reach their goals. So the Barbell Club felt like a good fit. It was, I think, everything that I needed it to be, so we decided to move on it, knowing well aware that there's probably other barbell clubs throughout the United States, but there wasn't one in Wyoming, and that's where we were going to be specific to. So we decided to roll with it, and it stuck, and I've been pleased with it. Yeah, super competitive. Maybe to a fault. In some ways, that's maybe calmed down a little bit, but man, I hate losing. Always have. Man, I remember playing soccer, right, when I was like my daughter's age, like 4 or 5. It's like, oh, everybody's a winner. No. I knew what the score was, and I knew if we won or if we lost. And so that's always been in me, and that's hard to get out. And there's a good portion of my life where I was a little bit of a sore loser too. And the competition side is healthy, but it also has to be like anything else. It has to be contained. It has to be guided. But yeah, absolutely competitive. And diabetes as an athlete, it creates some challenges, for sure. But I decided, I was diagnosed when I was 10, and I decided at a very early in the stages of having it and being diagnosed that I was not interested in it stopping me from doing anything that I wanted to do. Now, has it stopped me? It kept me from, serving my Heavenly Father and serving a mission like I wanted. But there's other ways to serve my Heavenly Father and in that nature. And I've had lots of opportunities to serve in my church since then. And one of my callings for a while was ward mission leader, where I was over the full-time missionaries that were in town, and I'd go out and teach with them. And so, it's the things that, again, feel like roadblocks as they're happening. Hindsight being 20, you get down the road a little ways and you realize how, man, things work out, and there's some pretty cool divine intervention in there. But for me, I didn't want it to stop me from doing anything, and I was going to try to limit that as much as possible. So I didn't use it as an excuse. I remember there was times when I'd be at wrestling practice or football practice, and my blood sugar would go low. And the worst time for it to go low would be during conditioning, right? Because conditioning is what everybody hated. It was the most miserable part. And my biggest fear was for people to think that I was using my diabetes as an excuse to get out of it. So there was more than a few times where my blood sugar would go low and I would have to step out to treat my low blood sugar. And every time I would go back and finish what I missed. I would pay attention to how many laps, how many rounds, or how many of whatever they did, and I would go back and finish it. Because I didn't want that to be an excuse, right? I didn't want people to think that I use it as an excuse, and I wasn't willing to use it as an excuse and be like, my blood sugar went low, so guess I missed out on that. No. Like, I'm gonna pay my dues. I'm gonna do that. But man, it makes it hard. I'm not gonna lie to you, especially in the world of bodybuilding. It makes competing in bodybuilding exponentially more difficult than it would be otherwise. Doesn't make it impossible, but man, it makes it hard. There's not very many professional bodybuilders that have made it very far that are type 1 diabetic. There's been a couple, but it makes it tough, man. Not impossible, right? I've done it. I've competed 6 times. But man, it makes it tough. Like my last prep, I prepped for about 26 weeks, where most of the guys were probably prepping 12 to 14. I need more time for my body to lose and get rid of the last little bit of adipose tissue. It's really stubborn letting go of that. Insulin's it's a growth hormone in a sense. It's also a fat storage hormone. And what I've found is when you take it from a synthetic source, it promotes that storage and hanging on to that maybe even a little bit more. There's phases of your diet where you're in like a ketogenic phase where you're not eating carbohydrates. If my blood sugar goes low, I have to consume carbohydrates to treat that. So I'm eating the things that I'm not supposed to be eating at the time. And if the blood sugar is really low, and let's say I overtreated, so now my blood sugar is high, now I have to take more insulin. And part of what you're doing with the diet is you're trying to manipulate how much insulin your body's using and really decrease that, which is why you have those different phases. So it's this chase, it's this constant chase. Even outside of a prep, it's not a perfect science. It's not just as simple as how many carbohydrates did I eat, and so how much insulin do I need? Emotions affect it. Illness, stress, all these things can go into affecting your blood sugar and how well you respond to insulin or how well you don't. So there's a ton that goes into it. But again, being competitive, just do it anyways, you know. Powerlifting, the preps, it's not as challenging with those preps because I'm not judged on aesthetics, but it definitely creates some challenges that otherwise I wouldn't have to deal with, but it is what it is. The amount of decisions that I have to make in a single day just based around my diabetes is wild. I saw a statistic once, I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was like on average diabetics make this many more decisions a day because of their disease. And it's true, it's like when I leave the house, do I have my insulin? Do I have fast acting and long acting? Did I take my long acting? What's my blood sugar right now? What did I just eat? Did I take enough insulin for that? Or did I take too much because, like, I mean, it's just all, you know, do I have things to treat my blood sugar? Do I have juice at work? Do I have juice in my bag? All these things. Do I have new needles for the insulin pen? It just never really stops. But like anything else, it gets integrated and it's just something you deal with. And thankfully it's a disease that, you know, I can ultimately manage as well as possible and hopefully limit how much it robs from my life. You know, I preach strength training is such an underused tool for people therapeutically and for what it does for our mind, for what it is as in, I always say, the most underused antidepressant on planet Earth. It's a controlled violence. It also challenges us. I preach often also, you know, the importance of doing hard shit and challenging ourselves because it makes us better on all ends. So for me, it's those things too. I always joke, and I said it in a podcast, it's what keeps me from killing people low key, right? It's therapeutic. It keeps me managing stress, and it's an opportunity, it's an outlet. And what a positive one, right? And again, I found that early in life that for me, it was something that gave me that release that at the time I didn't maybe really know it was doing that for me, but I caught on pretty quick to that, and I've kept it as a staple. I've kept it as an anchor in my life. It's part of my lifestyle. I got integrated into that very early. It quickly, for me, became a non-negotiable. Couldn't tell you how many times in my life I've said, sorry, I can't. I have to go to the gym. I need to go to the gym. It's that important to me. So finding that commitment, it's different for everybody, but I encourage a lot of people to find a way to plan their day around their workout and not their workout around their day, because then it gets shelved, right? It gets back burner. And I do think it's that important. You've got to spend time doing the things that help you be who you need and who you want to be. And it's only going to help you be the best version of the other things you need to be. How am I going to be the best business owner if I'm not doing the things that help me be the best me? How am I going to be the best father, the best husband, the best friend, anything that I want to be if I'm not spending the time working on me? When you're on the airplane, man, they say put your own mask on before helping someone else, right? I can't help you if I'm dead. So, you know, help yourself, man. Get your own house in order. And so it's very much that for me. Fell in love with it, and God willing, I'll be strength training and for as long as I walk this earth. So it's just something you have to get done, right? What it looks like preparing for that has been different over the years. My schedule's crazy, so one thing just goes right into the next. So I don't have a lot of time to sit in my car and listen to my pre-workout song and, you know, I'm literally going from often training clients or, you know, up until just recently treating patients to my own workout. So you just have to get really good at flipping that switch to where, okay, it's time. It's time to be, flip that switch and get that controlled violence on and kind of find out what you're made of. So it's a good thing. Luke is the jack of all trades, master of none. And the second part of that phrase that most people don't know is often better than master of one. My sister calls me the Renaissance man because I've always done everything. You know, growing up, I was a 5-sport athlete. I was a musician. I was in drama. I was in the high school honor choir. So I kind of did it all. And that's kind of continued for me. So when I'm not strength training, I'm not at the gym, it's a mixed bag. You know, now that we have a family, we have children, that obviously eats up some time and puts some of your other hobbies and priorities, not as much time to devote to those, and sometimes they get shelved a little bit, but I work pretty hard to keep them alive. So music is still a big part of my life. I actively play in a blues rock band. So that takes up, you know, some time. We play like once a month. It keeps it reasonable for all the schedules of all the members of the band, as well as, you know, all the irons that I have in the fire. So it's not too much, but it's just enough to where it keeps it cool for us, and it's a release for me, just like strength training is. It's a creative outlet. So music is a big part of it, and as of late, my family, my kids, keeping me busy. Got a 4-year-old daughter, 1.5-year-old son. So our lives are crazy. We own 2 businesses, so we're running around and getting shit done, and it's a busy life that has an appropriate amount of pressure, and I always say pressure is a privilege, so I'm grateful for it. But in free time, there's not a lot of it, so we do our best to travel when we can. My wife and I try to have our time away from the kids and stay sane too. But you know, if I'm not in the gym and I'm not here working at the gym, it's with the family, and then music is probably the other big one. So we've got a few other things that float in and out of it too. I shoot traditional longbow. My opportunity to do that, or the time that I find to get out and shoot, is far and few between. But sometimes when I have like a full free day, I have so many things that I like to do that I don't get to do, that like it like freezes me, and I'm like, I end up like sometimes not doing any of them because I don't know which one to devote to. And if, you know, depending on the time of year, we're heading into summer. I'm an avid golfer. I don't look like it, but I play decent, and certainly enjoy that. So it depends on the season. You know, it's wintertime, I like to snowboard. So I'm an active guy, got lots of hobbies. So yeah, jack of all trades, master of none, and busy's good. Franco, hey. Frank, come here. Come here. Come on. Come on. Up. Place. Place. Good boy. So this is Frank. Okay, too many. All right. Full name Franco. Franco is named after Franco Columbu, the bodybuilder. Arnold Schwarzenegger's best friend and a bodybuilder from that same era, 70s and 80s. He was a tiny little man, and I figured if I have a mini beagle, I'm going to name him after a bodybuilder. So that's where Frank got his name, you know, Franco shortened to Frank. He is certainly up there with my best friend. When we were dog shopping, it was funny because I'm the dog person, my wife is not. And I was looking at like American Pit Bulls, Mastiffs, Great Danes, like all these big breeds, right? And then somehow I ended up with a damn mini beagle. But what was interesting is when I was on the search and kind of, you know, exploring the idea of getting a dog, my wife started she would like be hunting on Facebook, and she'd be like, oh, look at these dogs. And I'd say, well, see if we can go look at them. They're all taken, they're all accounted for. And, you know, so that happened several times. Well, one night she's like, look at these puppies. And she shows me this picture of these 2 beagle puppies. And there's a male and a female left. And I was like, well, see if we can go look at them. Like thinking, you know, same old, no, they're all gone, they're all accounted for. So she messages the lady and sets up a time so that we can go look at them. And it was like a Wednesday or something. So we get home from work, and we're gonna go to meet this dog. And I was like, what are we doing? I was like, we're gonna go look at this 4-week-old puppy. You know you're gonna like it. It's a beagle puppy, right? They're precious. And I was like, should we like take some money? And my wife's like, oh, I already got it. Like she had like cash ready, like, and I'm the dog person, but she was like ready to roll, man. So we roll up in there, and she takes us back to the pen where the whole litter's at, and there's Frank laying broadside in the middle of the pen, like no movement. And the rest of the dogs are barking and just being psychopaths, jumping around. He's getting his head stepped on and just getting punished, and he just doesn't care. So I pick him up and hold him, and he just looks me dead in the eyes and doesn't break eye contact, and he's just super chill. And I knew I wanted a male instead of a female, and so I was like, all right. So we put the money down, and we picked him up 2 weeks later. So got him when he was 6 weeks, and he's about to turn 7 this next month. So everyone thinks he's super old just because he's really calm, and beagles get that white face early on, but he's just a pretty chill dog. He's a very peculiar dog. He's the oddest dog I've ever had in my life. His nickname is Big Cat because he's more cat-like than he is dog. And everything's on his time. He's kind of an asshole, just like cats are. And but he makes a good gym dog because he's kind of distant. He's cautiously optimistic, and everyone wants to touch him, but he's not like in your face, you know. So he's, I guess he's our gym mascot. He hangs out here and spends a lot of time with me. But he's a good dog. Happy to have him. We don't deserve dogs, you know that? We just don't, man. Man's best friend for sure. I always say, all dogs go to heaven, and if they don't, then I ain't going. So. I would tell him that it's going to get rough. I'd say, the past several years have been rough, but it's gonna get rough, man. It's gonna get worse, and you're gonna be okay. And I'm gonna tell him that he's gonna need some counseling, and that he's gonna start it a hell of a lot sooner than 31 years old. And I'm gonna tell him to follow his dreams. And I'm gonna talk to him about imposter syndrome and doubt and fear and how all of that's normal. And I'm going to encourage him so that he can get there sooner than I got there. And I'm going to encourage him to choose joy and to choose happiness. We talk about, just mentioned it before, that every moment's a choice, right? And every choice has prices and benefits. We have to choose those things. And I would tell him to choose that. It'd be a long conversation. I have a lot to say to that kid. And I'd tell him to, be patient through the hard times, because what he has to look forward to is pretty rad. Life's a tragic and beautiful thing all at once, but it's worth it. I want to continue the momentum that it has. I want to continue building the community, and I guess if I had to say, 5-year plan for the Barbell Club is a new location, not an additional one, but a new one. For how I want to scale the business and the growth that I want to do, that's within its own walls. And so a new location will be needed in order for me to check some of these boxes. So that's definitely on my radar. I'm in the preliminary planning stages of that. I'm in the dreaming stage, the getting clear, getting calculated stage on that, to get those moving parts in motion, because that stuff takes time. So now's the time. Just how I bought equipment for almost a decade before I opened this, I'm doing that same thing for what's the next stage of the Barbell Club. So we're going to be repeating a similar format of buying equipment and putting it in storage and kind of planning and preparing for what's next. But a new location, different location that allows us to scale and continue the growth and have the opportunities and the space that we need for that. So that's kind of the generic plan right now for the Barbell Club, and then we'll kind of see what it turns into. Right now, the idea of like multiple locations and franchising, it doesn't really do it for me. I want to keep the quality high. I want to keep it. I think the people that are members here, the people that come in here, I think they notice that there's a special vibe here. There's a special spirit here, and there's something different about it, and I want to keep that. So, yeah, I'm excited. It's been a nice rate of growth, and we've got a good community going, good group of people, lots of people working hard, hitting PRs, reaching goals, changing their lives, changing their physiques. People don't even recognize them. It's just, it's awesome. It's fun to be part of that, and I just want to continue facilitating having a facility that allows people the space, the equipment, the atmosphere that helps them do that.